Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. My name is Dirty Apples, and this is my very first official YouTube video. And what better way to kick off my channel than to tell you my top 10 games of all time. Everybody loves top 10 lists, so I want to share mine. Let's get to it. My number 10 video game of all time, according to me, is Metal Gear Solid. It's just an amazing game. It is done by Hideo Kojima. Kojima is just a master, like putting a movie on a video, making a movie into a video game. That's basically what it is. You are playing a movie that Kojima's created in a video game form, and it's just a stealth espionage type game. You're trying to figure out all the Metal Gear business. I'm not going to go too much into the plot. I just knew when I played this game for the first time, I knew video games were different. This part right here is actually the part that like really blew my mind. I don't know what it is specifically about this part that I think is pretty awesome, but he literally uses ketchup that Otacon just gave him to simulate blood, and then he lays it on the ketchup to alert guards. I don't know, maybe that's just a personal feeling for me that stands out. It's such a little memorable moment that I've never done anything like that in a different video game. And I mean, and that's not even like, that's just a little percent of what makes Metal Gear so good. The stealthiness is something that I don't think has ever really been experienced in games the way Metal Gear Solid does it, and just everything else, all the different items, hiding in cardboard boxes, the interesting bosses that make you do things that I guarantee you've never done in video games before, is just a reason why Metal Gear Solid is my personal number 10 of all time. Before we move on to my number 9, you're probably wondering, wow, that Dirty Apples, he looks different from his intro. My hair is longer and messier. Yeah, so when I did the intro, I did it a few weeks ago, and I was just wanting to make the most perfect YouTube video that I've ever made. Granted, this is my very first YouTube video, so I'm starting to realize that I'm not gonna get it perfect. So I thought it was, after sitting on it, thinking about it, I personally thought I just wanted to get it out there and hopefully people enjoy it. It's something that I like doing. I know there's things I gotta learn on the way, but so if things look a little different from my intro to now, that is the reason why, because I'm recording the actual list weeks after I did the actual intro, and I didn't want to redo the intro. So that's just a little insight of that. So now let's move on to number 9. My number 9 favorite video game of all time is The Last of Us, the first one. I know the second one has just recently come out. I played through all that. I did a 24-hour live stream. Pretty good game. It does not deserve the hate it gets, but I digress. The Last of Us, really good game. It's, spoiler alert, and that was my phone. And you know what? To keep on message to having a perfect video, I'm going to leave that in because, like I said, I just want to get it out there and I want people to see it. Anyways, Last of Us. You're going to realize as I go through this list that I lean into action adventure / story driven games. It doesn't get much more story driven than The Last of Us. Characters are built incredibly. especially in this first one. And any character you come across, you either like them or hate them. Like, they do a really good job conveying just the different personalities there are in this post-apocalyptic world. I guess I should have let off with that. The Last of Us is a post-apocalyptic game, and without not ruining too much, Joel goes through a lot of stuff, and he has to escort this girl to potentially get a cure. This girl is immune to the virus that has been taking everybody that's been getting bit. And that's as far as I'll go as far as the plot's concerned without giving too much away. When I originally played it, I wasn't the biggest fan of the combat, like the especially the shooting, but I've come around to that. I've grown to like it. It's still not the best, but you're not meant to have the most perfect shot. But you'll notice there is a certain time where you play as the girl Ellie over Joel. It's much harder to shoot with Ellie, and that's intentional because she's just a teenage girl who's never really shot a gun before, even though she says she has. You could tell she just is not as comfortable with a gun as Joel is. It's just a really great story-driven game that even if you're not playing it, you could grow to love just because the characters are so developed, and it's just a great story that anybody can get behind. And that's the reason why The Last of Us is my number 9 favorite game of all time. My number 8 video game of all time is Celeste. Now, I knew a retro platformer was going to be on my list. I just wasn't sure which one. To be honest, when I was going over the list, I thought for sure Cuphead was going to be on my list. And surprisingly, no, Cuphead didn't make it, because shortly after playing Cuphead, I played Celeste, and man, it is almost the perfect retro platformer puzzle game. A lot of people think it's hard, and that's part of the challenge to me. Getting through all of the different stages and the levels creatively, you start to learn these little abilities, simple little platformer abilities that help you navigate in specific ways. And just like the rest of my games so far, there is a story there. It's not as in depth of a story. Well, maybe some would argue that there is, but I'm going to say it's not as in depth as some of the other stories, but it does tell a great story about how she is battling herself. She has an alter ego, and it's just like battling real life problems that some people have in their lives. And it's just a great game to play. And you do have problems that you can't control, that with enough fight and enough hard work and enough determination that you can get through it. Celeste time and time again backs that up and just reinforces that, with hard work and determination, you will get through anything in life just like you do in this video game. It's a wonderful game. I would play it any chance I get, and this is why Celeste is my number 8 game of all time. My number 7 video game of all time is The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. When I first played this game, something in my head told me, video games will never get better than this. Which, I think a lot of games that we played, graphically, gameplay-wise, whatever, we've had that thought. It could be argued that games didn't get better than this. It's just, there's a lot of good Legend of Zelda games that have come out before then, after then. This is the first one, though, that really stuck for me, and it's just game breaking because it's the first 3D Zelda game that we had, and it didn't really make any mistakes. It for a game on the Nintendo 64 with the functionality that it had, it was about as perfect as a game as it could be. The story is amazing, the characters are amazing, and I could go on, and there was other Zelda games that I could have put on this list, like Majora's Mask or even Wind Waker, but I felt like Ocarina of Time was the game that I wanted to put on here, and I didn't want to put too many games of a single franchise on my list, so that's why Ocarina of Time, for me, is my personal number 7 video game of all time. My number 6 game of all time is Super Mario Odyssey. Once again, I could have put a lot of Mario games in this spot. Mario platformers, I should say. Hint, hint. But Super Mario Odyssey was easily my favorite Super Mario platformer. For a long time, it used to be Super Mario World, very close by Super Mario 3. I liked Mario 64, Mario Sunshine. I just felt like the 2D platformers overall as a game were superior. As groundbreaking as Mario 64 was, I liked the side scrollers better. That being said, Super Mario Odyssey blows all other Mario platformers out of the water. I don't care what you say. I'll fight anybody that wants to argue it. It's ingenious. The developers of the game knew that people would be able to get to places with the right moves and abilities and hat tossing. Throwing the hat is such a simple little thing, yet it is so useful and so unique. Somewhat like the your water pump in Super Mario Sunshine. Of course, I can't remember the name of it right now. It's got a cute little anagram that I can't think of. But it's those little things that the Mario games add that always make it unique to all of the other games in general, like the Tanuki suit in Super Mario Brothers 3, or the cape in Super Mario World. To me, the throwing of the hat is easily like the best thing that Mario's ever gotten in a Mario game. It makes traversing the world easier, beating different bad guys in certain ways easier, and it's just fun. There are not very many games that I could just pop in and I could just freely do whatever I want and just have fun. There is another game that will be in my honorable mentions that are just as fun. It barely missed my top 10 list, whereas Super Mario Odyssey was just, it was too good. It's too good not to put on my list. I hope they make a Super Mario Odyssey 2 and they don't go a different route. But just everything, even the little story, the fun little story. I haven't even mentioned that the biggest part about the hat is you get to capture things and you get to control them. Frogs, T-Rexes, Goombas. It's amazing. All of those reasons I said and more are why Super Mario Odyssey is my number 6 game of all time. My number 5 video game of all time is Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Another story-driven action-adventure platformer. No. This breaks the mold of my entire list. Granted, Black Ops 2 is a pretty decent story. The Black Ops story, I mean, for what it is actually pretty decent. But I'm not playing Black Ops 2 for the campaign, even though I did. It's the multiplayer that that carries this game for me. I've been playing Call of Duty multiplayer since Call of Duty 3 back on, was it the 360 now? Xbox 360. Uh, and then the Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare was the one that really hooked me. But I feel like, as far as multiplayer goes, the one that really put it all together was Black Ops 2. It has the Pick 10. I believe Black Ops 2 was the first game to do the Pick 10 for your loadout, which I thought was an amazing addition. It's just the the gunplay was good, the maps were good, everything about Black Ops 2, and I just have a lot of good memories playing this game with my friends, going on epic win streaks, playing Search and Destroy mainly. I could have put either of the Modern Warfares, the OG4 or the new Modern Warfare. I'm having a lot of fun with the new Modern Warfare. It's a breath of fresh air because I haven't liked a Call of Duty in a long time, really. But with the 2v2 multiplayer and the new Warzone, I'm very hooked on the current Call of Duty franchise. But that being said, I went with Black Ops 2 just because it was, I feel like everything as a whole, campaign, multiplayer, zombies. Didn't even mention zombies. I wasn't a huge zombie fan, but it's probably my favorite version of zombies. All of that is why Black Ops 2 is my number 5 favorite game of all time. My number 4 favorite video game of all time is Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. Now, I knew that I put Super Mario Odyssey at number 6, and I wasn't gonna have multiple games of the same franchise, but Super Mario RPG for a while was my number 1. Um, I'm just taking a quick look at the list here. Yeah, um, my the 3 games above Super Mario RPG are fairly recent, within the last few years. So before the my top 3, Super Mario RPG was definitely my number 1 game of all time. I am not a huge RPG fan. This is a turn-based RPG. It's kind of played out now. Final Fantasy VII Remake, for example, an amazing game. Barely missed my list. Will be in my honorable mention. Spoiler alert. But I think the Final Fantasy VII Remake, for what it was, is much better than the turn-based Final Fantasy stuff. Whereas this Super Mario game is amazing. Even though it's turn-based, I absolutely love it. It Square Soft, which is now Square Enix or Square or whatever they are. So they were they were the main developer for this game. They were using the Nintendo assets, and by Nintendo assets, I guess the only one is like Mario and Bowser and Peach. Not There not very much here. There's very unique characters: Mallow, Geno, um, the Toad guy that I can't think of right now that you have to play music for. Very unique characters. Geno is one of my favorite video game characters of all time. That's a whole different list, but I just want Geno to be in Smash, and who knows, maybe you're watching this video and Geno is already in Smash. Hopefully, please. This is another really good story. It's gonna be the only RPG that is on this list. I don't know what is so captivating about this, why this sticks. I mean, I am a fan of Nintendo and Mario in general, but just something about this game, the items, the fact that you're teaming up with people on your team that you normally wouldn't team up with, like Bowser. Um, I just think it's super cool. You're trying to take his castle back um, from the big baddie Smitty, and it's an amazing ride, and hopefully this game gets added to the Super Nintendo online for the Switch. That would be amazing, so that more people can experience it. I know it was released on the Wii U, but a lot of people didn't play the Wii U. So I really hope Nintendo can get this on the Super Nintendo online, so a lot more people can experience this, and they'll understand why my love for this game is so high, and all that and more is why Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars is my number 4 game of all time. My number 3 favorite game of all time is Rocket League. I love sports in general. I like football, I like basketball, I like soccer, a little bit of hockey, a little bit of baseball, etc. Name a sport, I most likely watch it, like it, play it. The problem is with a lot of sports games, there's a new game every year, so you're not really sticking with any one game. You're just playing that for the year. New rosters, new gameplay changes, etc. And so no sports game ever never really stick. And then along came this little indie game around 2015, I believe, called Rocket League. And it took sports gaming by storm. It is now a huge esports game. And it hit its peak a few years ago, and it's kind of leveled off now. But it's still my favorite sports game. My favorite parts of it is most sports games, especially team-based games like football, basketball. You're always going to have to deal with um, the roll of the dice. You can throw it to the same receiver the exact same way 10 times, but you can never guarantee that receiver is going to catch it all 10 times. You just have to hope that the game decides, yep, he's going to catch it this time because he's wide open, whatever. And there's no way you can control all 11 people at all time in a football game, or all 5 people in a basketball game. Granted, it's a little more manageable in basketball. There's less people. With Rocket League, everything is 100% physics based. Anything that happens in the game is 100% based off of you. You drive your car. You can fly your car with the boost that you gain across the maps. The way you hit the ball determines how the ball flies. If you hit it with the top of your car rather than the wheels of your car, will determine how hard the ball is hit. You can hit it off a wall if you're able to judge angles. I'm good at it, not the best at it. I can't do these crazy double taps that you might be seeing here. But yeah, if you're able to calculate that and able to control your car, efficiently and effectively, you could pull off some amazing plays like you're seeing on this footage right here. And it was just announced, was it yesterday, that the game is free to play. Well, yesterday as of this recording, that the game is free to play. How awesome. Or it's going to be free to play. How awesome is that? Now everybody can download and play my personal favorite sports game. It's only going to make the game bigger, and that is because of all those reasons. That is why Rocket League is my number 3 game of all time. My number 2 game of all time is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. This game is so nice, I had to break the not putting multiple games of the same franchise rule twice. It was a tough decision for what was going to be my number 1 game. I knew this was going to be a contender. It's just missing it at number 2. Why is this game so good? It's a 3D Zelda that just breaks the mold. It's a Zelda that's completely open world. from the start, from the moment Link wakes up and he starts his adventure. Actually, I think you have to get your paraglider first. But I believe, I haven't personally tried it, but I know from the moment you start and get your paraglider, you can go straight to killing Ganon. It's hard to do, uh, but it is possible. There's no official levels in this game. What you do is you complete dungeons to get hearts, which, you know, every other Zelda game, I guess. I don't know why I mentioned levels, but that's the only thing that determines if you can beat Ganon or not. Your weapons have certain strength values, and then, of course, your hearts, how much damage you can take, and the main reason why this game is so good is you can go and do anything you want, whenever you want, however you want. If you can, with the items you have, with the environment that you have, if you can think of it, chances are you can probably do it. Fire creates this, you know, this steam or this vapor that evaporates into the sky. And then with your paraglider, you can float up from fire to fly above your enemies, and then you can drop your own little bombs down as you're flying and then detonate them, and then come down and stab an enemy as you're flying down. If you can think of physics wise how to do something, you probably can. You can roll a rock or a bomb down a little hill. That's what makes this game better than all the other Zelda games, in my opinion, and almost every other game in general. You can get anywhere. You can climb anywhere. Almost everything you see is climbable. The only thing that's holding you back is your stamina, and you can earn stamina by doing the shrines, which are basically the dungeons in this game. A lot of people don't like the dungeons. I understand, or excuse me, a lot of people don't like the shrines in this game, and I understand. I do like them. They're nice little replacement. It's just, yeah, it's just a little dungeon replacement, and you could argue that the four beasts that you have to fight are arguably dungeons and might be the best dungeons in all of The Legend of Zelda. I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong. That I'm not saying that's true, but there are some people out there that like the dungeons and the shrines better than all the other Zelda games, and I can't disagree with them because everything else about this Zelda game is just way too good. It's like I said, it's completely open world, and they're shield surfing. Shield surfing, like, who doesn't want to shield surf? And just for that alone is why The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is my number 2 game of all time. Before we get into number 1, I am gonna flash a little short picture montage of my honorable mentions or games that just missed my top 10 list. So I'm going to show you that, and then we will get into, without a doubt, the best game of all time. Just kidding. My personal number 1 favorite game of all time. So and my number 1 best, favoriteest, personal game of all time is God of War. The God of War that released in 2018. It is probably considered God of War 4, but they didn't put that on the box. So we're just going to call it God of War. It does take place after God of War 1, 2, and 3, where Kratos is a little older and now he's kind of, showing his son the ropes. This game is beautiful. It's amazing. Everything about video games that I like is in God of War. There's some RPG elements with the armor and weapons and stuff, and it's not very much. It's not that in depth, which is fine with me. I'm totally okay with that. This game was done by the Santa Monica studio, and they made the game to where there are no cutscenes. There's no cuts at all. You're playing the game, and if any scene happens where you're not controlling it, it doesn't cut. It just goes right into it. That is the beauty of this game. So what you're seeing here on gameplay is the same look you get during the cutscenes that you see, but everything you do, everything you play, everything you see is just one. It simulates one continuous shot, and that is just one part of the beauty of this game. Why I like it so much. The combat is amazing. The different abilities that you can learn, just like the brute of it all, of Kratos throwing his axe and just beating people to a pulp. And his axe is basically, like Thor. He could throw it and then he just reaches up his hand and it comes right back. It's amazing. You can see right here in this scene, it went from gameplay to a cutscene, and the visuals look pretty much the same, and there was no cut at all. The game is amazing. I love the story of it. I am super excited to play the sequel that is coming out. They purposely put locations in this game that you are 100% unable to get to. As a little teaser, they just wanted to tease you. You can't go to Asgard, really? You can't go to Asgard? But obviously, if you've played the game and you've seen the end stuff and all that, you're gonna be going to Asgard in the second game. I'm so super excited. That might take my top spot when that comes out. We'll see what happens. But all that being said, this is why God of War is my ultimate #1 top game of all time. So that was it. That was my top 10 games of all time. I appreciate if you watched the entire video. Thank you very much. Like I said, this is my very first video. I'm hoping to get better at this. I just hope you enjoyed it. I hope to be able to do this more. I just don't know what kind of videos I want to do, but I did quite enjoy this. And editing all this took a lot of work, a lot of trials and different playing around, but I finally got to figure out to make a semi-competent YouTube video. If you want to follow me at Dirty Apples 24, I'm mainly a Twitch streamer. Definitely check me out on Twitch. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that. If you want to stay connected with me, like I said, hopefully I can bring more YouTube videos in the future. Thank you for watching, and until next time, you guys have a good day.